So what does the food forest design process look like? I've got some native violets, really delicious plant out here in Minnesota. This video is kind of going to tell you what the food forest design process looks like for me, how I do it. And this is not a sales pitch. Obviously, it's my business social media page. Everything is in one way or another a sales pitch, but I want to walk you through the process so that if you're doing food forest design, this video is kind of going to show you what I've found works the best. And through working with people, I've kind of seen and adjusted the ways I do things. Now, some people, when they do a food forest design, they'll just give you a map. They'll tell you what to put and where to put it. Now, I like to educate people as much as possible. And some people really do want to lean more on that. Some people are really excited to learn, and they just would do the design themselves if they had more time, or if they didn't have a lack of confidence in their abilities to do things properly and to not to forget some factors. I mean, I'll even go so far as to just have someone do the design themselves and check their work if they're really interested in that. And so every single design I do is different. It's based on exactly what someone needs. And I'm kind of going to go through what that process generally can look like, but each individual step and stage doesn't necessarily apply to each and every person. Now, let's just take the first stages of design. The first stages of food forest design are typically site analysis and goal clarification. So everyone just wants to grow food, support bees, support native plants. How much time do you want to maintain it? What percent of your diet? What amount of diversity versus things you know you like? All these specific questions help really clarify what you're looking for. And I'd highly recommend the book Edible Forest Gardens if you want to walk yourself through the design process. But I'm going to give you a few things in this video that are super helpful. So things that really I've kind of based all my designs around, that I give to all my clients, that I make sure everyone does. And so you have your site conditions, things from soil. One of the first things I'll talk about is that I've learned it's really important to have the client go and analyze what plants are there. So go identify the plants that are on the site. Obviously, education is really important because the more you understand your food forest, the more you're going to be able to maintain it effectively. So go and identify all the plants on the site and look into how does that affect your understanding of the soil that's there, the ecosystem that's there. Based on those plants, what stage of succession are we at? How disturbed is the soil? Can use plants as indicators for the pH of the soil, things like that. As far as goals, really just getting clarity on exactly what you want is going to be the foundation of the design process. And from there, when you do have a clear idea of the goals and a clear idea of the site conditions, you can take all these different techniques and things that are common in food forestry, different common popular plants, and you can see which ones actually fit from getting the current site to meet those goals. And so as far as food forest design, one thing that you want to do pretty much in every single food forest, and what I'm about to tell you is basically there are different functions that you want your ecosystem to fulfill. So pest management, nutrient production over time, and I can't even look at the camera with the sun, but and obviously you want edible plants. There's other things as well, but some people are willing to add compost every few years. They don't care so much about the nutrient production over time. They don't mind if they have to do some of the nutrient management every few years. They don't want their ecosystem to do everything, especially on a larger scale. And if you're able to, as much as possible, you should have the ecosystem do this. As far as pollinator support, you want to have certain types of flowers for certain types of insects and also for hummingbirds flowering throughout the season. So one thing I do for pretty much all my clients at this point is set up a nectary calendar, a blooming, flowering calendar, where they can go and see if they don't find a certain plant that I put into the design, they can see, and this is just for plants that are intended to be for beneficial insects. And if you don't know these beneficial insects, you establish populations of them and they'll eat the pest population, maintaining a permanent balance instead of having to constantly apply pesticides. So you can see that plant, that goldenrod, for example, was supposed to be flowering at a certain time of year, and it's supposed to be for this certain insect, and there's actually not that many plants flowering at this time for that insect in the food forest. So I need to go find another one of those. So that's the idea. So I'd say, yeah, as far as site analysis, understanding the ecosystem that's there, understanding the ecological functions of your food forest. One of them is the beneficial insect support, and understanding why we're selecting those plants. So make that nectary calendar, and you can find a template of this in Edible Forest Gardens. Next, I would say, just nitrogen fixers. If you're going to have nitrogen fixers, make sure they're in full sun and understand that they're there for a certain purpose. Have the amount of nitrogen fixers in an area relate to the nitrogen needs of that area. Things like this. So a certain tree doesn't need any nitrogen fixers. Another tree could use the amount of nitrogen that would be produced if half of the understory species were nitrogen fixers. So as far as the actual design process that I take people through, if you want to go through this process yourself, if you want to work with me, if you want to work with me, go to eternalharvestgardens.com. But another thing that I would say is that when you have those site conditions, you have your goals, and you're doing species selection, if you have very good site conditions, you have good soil, you have a lot of open sun, you're in a good climate, a good area for food forestry, what decides what species you'll be getting primarily are the best species in food forestry, and the best species are those that fulfill multiple ecological functions. So the best species are those that fix nitrogen, are edible, and are also great for beneficial insects. That's amazing. And whatever species you want. Let's say you just really want asparagus. That's great. Let's plant a bunch of asparagus. If you have more challenging site conditions, then the design process is more about finding plants that can be edible, that can support the ecosystem, that can heal the ecosystem in those site conditions. You're gonna have a more narrow range of plants to choose from. And so that can kind of help people. Some people are like, oh, I can go Google the top 200 plants for a food forest, and I just get confused. So that should kind of help you understand the structure. Generally, I start with the canopy, start with the tree layer. So figure out what trees grow well in your area, figure out which ones you want to grow, and how you want to place them. Tree placement is very important. You don't want to have them too close together. You want them to be well spaced out in a food forest. That's a whole nother video though. It has to do with the type of ecosystem, the type of stage and succession that you're trying to create. And this will definitely be good for my garden. Oh yeah, that's a nice stick. Put that in the garden for sure. And yeah, I think I'll leave the video there. That's pretty much it. If you want to learn more, go to my channel, follow along. eternalharvestgardens.com is the website right now. It's that time of year that I don't really have time to do many designs. I am booked out at least a month, really probably until early July to work on designs. However, we can always go through some of those first stages, which don't take me as much time. A lot of the time my designs can take a long time because I'm working with people through the entire process. I'm not just giving you a map, I'm holding your hand through the entire process, from site analysis to understanding how to get your plants in the ground and actually implement the plan over time. And again, this is something that just depends on the person. Some people do want to work together over a longer term basis. It just depends on the person's needs. No two designs that I do are the same. I don't like to have a cookie cutter design process that I just apply to everyone. It really depends on what someone is looking for. So if you want to have that conversation, if you're interested in a design, go ahead, get in touch with me, and we can schedule a free consult call. Don't book the call through the website because I am actually busy like all day, every day. If you want to get a food forest design, we can figure that out. Over the winter is a great time too, but at least get in touch. And yeah, a lot of these things, people are like, I want to plant my food forest now. If it's this time of year and you're starting to think about it, you can do it. It depends on the site conditions, but sometimes you want to spend a year or two just preparing the ground so that you don't set yourself up for failure and endless work decades into the future. Anyways, that's the video. Peace.